Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to hear the rest of that story about Tirtha Maharaj?
Yes. Yes. Do you remember where we left off?
Yeah, I know. Remember exactly where we left off.
Right. Okay.
I went to see Srila Prabhupada and I told him that I'd come to see Lalita Prasada.
Yeah.
And then I gave him money, had dinner with Pujana, and I said that Lalita Prasada was saying that Tirtha Maharaj had tried to poison him. Because, now this is Lalita Prasada talking, I tend to take it with a grain of salt, but I'm just going to tell you what he said. And that was he was going to get on a boat to come to America to preach. But the Tirtha Maharaj stopped him. And that Tirtha Maharaj had taken a lot of the books of Bhaktivinoda and altered them. And he said there was a big collection of his books and he destroyed them.
Wow.
That's what Lalita Prasada told me.
Wow.
But I don't accept anything is true just because somebody tells it to me.
Yeah.
So I was.
You told that to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, because I couldn't keep.
Yeah.
I had no right to keep it to myself.
Of course, yeah. So what did he say?
And he was saying, I'm trying to remember exactly how it came into the. I said something about Lalita Prasada's attitude or something. He said, yes. He said, Lalita Prasada is a Vaishnava, a devotee. I forget what she said.
Oh.
Is a devotee. And he said, it's steady. Is a Vaishnava. He said in a very measured way.
Oh.
He said, and he looked at me sharply and said, of course he criticized my Guru Maharaj.
Oh.
And he left that trail in the air. Because he knew, I guess, now that I'm seeing myself without anybody around me, except you and the Lieutenant King,
Yeah.
I began to realize that Prabhupada knew that I was going to catch his point. Even though I didn't think I knew anything, I told us like an idiot. So he said, yes. Then he looked up sharply and turned to me and said sharply, but there is 1,000,000 miles between Tirtha Maharaj and a Vaishnava. He said. Then he went on to say, people misunderstood my Guru Maharaj's adoration of Tirtha Maharaj. These are the exact words. Adoration of Tirtha Maharaj.
So what does that mean?
Well, adoration is to adore,
yeah.
to practically, fawn on somebody, It's like when you have a favorite child, you adore that child.
Right.
So adoration of Tirtha Maharaj. He would say, I told you the part where he said there's 1,000,000 miles between Tirtha Maharaj and a Vaishnava, right?
Prabhupada said that.
Yeah. And then he went straight into saying, but people misunderstood my spiritual master's, my Guru Dev's
erudition.
Adoration of Tirtha Maharaj.
Yeah.
He would say, oh, look at Tirtha Maharaj. He's opening temples. See how he's printing books. You should all be like Tirtha Maharaj. Then he looked at me ferociously, and his eyes were flashing like fire. He said that my Guru Maharaj was not fooled even for a minute. So what happened is that Bhaktisiddhanta was just gloating, just like when Prabhupada says things like what he says in the Krishna Panchami. He was pumping up Tirtha Maharaj, just like he pumped up Tamal and all the people on the 11 Riptaks list and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He pumped them up, but he wasn't fooled even for a minute. We could repeat that about Prabhupada.
I mean, can we say that he pumped them up so that they can fall down? I mean,
no, so that they can go out and open temples. You should be like Tirtha Maharaj. open temples, print books. But he knew that Tirtha Maharaj was, okay, what happened with Tirtha Maharaj was he was a young guy, and he wanted to get ahead. But he didn't have what it took to get ahead.
Right.
So he said, here's this young sannyasi, Bhaktisiddhanta. I will go there and I will join him. He was a householder at the time, I think.
Oh, Tirtha Maharaj, okay. I see.
Yeah. He took sannyas later.
Okay.
He said, but, I'll hook into him and I'll be his, what do you call it, his manager, his PR guy.
Yeah.
I'll be his promoter.
Yeah.
I'll promote him. And he did. So all sorts of things, it's like Tamal. All of a sudden he did. It's funny because his Prabhupada has had conversations like that with Tamal also. He said that he said that, are you recording?
Yes.
Good. And he said that Tirtha Maharaj, this is rare stuff. If I were to quote tomorrow, it would not be anywhere. I never spoke it anywhere. So he was a promoter for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah.
He was moving them, creating events and stuff like that, and he helped lead his other disciples. But so that's essentially what he said, and about Tirtha Maharaj. And I thought that was earth-shattering for me. I didn't have any reason to not believe him. I had no opinion about Tirtha Maharaj, who was still alive at that time. Well, Prabhupada used to say about Tirtha Maharaj that he always had his hand under his cutter, and his hand is moving. And so people think he's chanting japa. But Prabhupada said, but actually he had Parkinson's disease.
Oh, I see.
That's why he was moving. So yeah, that's that episode wrapped up in a nutshell. Prabhupada didn't comment on anything about Lalita Prasad saying he had already booked a passage on a boat to America or anything like that.
Okay.
I never pursued it for an extremely simple reason. I doubted it was true.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing that people say, particularly the Sahajias that become Vasika.
So, Srila Prabhupada says in 1970, in a room conversation, 1971, February 14, 1971, Prabhupada says, my Guru Maharaj was in his last days. This rascal doctors injected this Kunja Bihari Tirtha Maharaj brought so many big doctors, and he protested. Why are you giving me injection? He protested. He personally said, why are you giving me injection? Unquote. And if you bring a doctor, the rascals will not stop. Oh, that is our treatment. We must try our best. They will plead like that to give you trouble to the patient. That is our business. Inventing new medicines means inventing new means of giving trouble. That's all.
Yeah, and you know what happened from the injections? Prabhupada said that the doctors poisoned him to death. It killed him. They were actually killing him.
So that's Tirtha Maharaj for you. Bringing...
Yeah, and Prabhupada is describing that to Tamal Krishna, who went and did the same thing a few years later.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Tirtha Maharaj was a very Tamal-like figure, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's always somebody like that. There's always Judas Iscariot, even though Judas apparently wasn't the bad guy people say he was. There's always some angel, there's always a betrayer in the middle of your faithful flock.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's there. So we have to, even in any business dealings, any Krishna conscious activities, there's always some traitor in there, right?
Yeah.
So.
But what we're doing is good, and if it can last, if we can build, not only get the information out, which we're doing every week,
Yeah.
3 days a week, but if we build it up on the website and on the Facebook page and get it not so much for chit-chat, but for broadcasting information, then somehow or other, maybe not in my lifetime, or maybe yes in my lifetime, we will be able to crack the code.
Yes. So, you mentioned the name Tirtha Maharaj, so I started looking in the Bhaktivedanta database about Tirtha Maharaj, and can I read something? So,
of course, yes.
So it can confirm all the points you have made. Prabhupada is saying in 1969, Prabhupada says, let me read the paragraph. Then after disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1914, then after the disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1914, Bhaktivinoda Thakur organized this Krishna Chaitanya movement in pure form from Mayapur. He published many books and papers, Sajana Toshani. When he passed away in 1914, at that time, he entrusted the matter to Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that, quote, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, I am going my work unfinished about this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. You take charge of it, unquote. So, Prabhupada is saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur said this to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I'm going, my work unfinished about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, you take charge of it.
Yes.
So, Prabhupada now says, so he took it very seriously, the word of Bhaktivinoda. So, since 1914 to 1918, he was simply thinking that how I can expand this movement. Now, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, between 1914 to 1918, how can I expand this movement? Then, so in 1918, he started this movement with the help of some disciples Krishna sent him.
Yeah.
So, one of the disciples, he is now Tirtha Maharaj.
Yeah.
So, perhaps he belonged to the Ramakrishna Mission Society.
Oh, that's right. He belonged to Ramakrishna Club.
Yes. And then Prabhupada says, so...
But that's a whole bogus society. So he went in there for the exact purpose of career move.
Yes. Then Prabhupada says, so one of his disciples, he is now Tirtha Maharaj. Perhaps he belongs to Ramakrishna Mission Society. So he is very ambitious. So he took the opportunity of starting this movement, finding out the saintly person. So apart from that point of view, with his help, this Gaudiya Math was started and gradually it developed. So in the Calcutta, Guru Maharaj started in 1918, and I think in 1922, when I was a young man, one of my friends, he took me to Guru Maharaj. That was my first meeting, and of course he was speaking to everyone, but he found me as something. So immediately after my meeting he said this, so immediately after my meeting he said this, that, quote, why don't you preach this Chaitanya cult in the Western countries, unquote. This is a memorable day. Of course I do not know that I will have to do it, you see. So this was in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day, February 7th, 1969. So everything you have said is basically confirmed here, that he was ambitious, he was in the Ramakrishna mission, so he took the opportunity to come to, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's movement because of his own agenda to be a so-called successor, like the bogus initiators.
Well, no, he didn't want to be a successor.
Oh,
He wanted to be in charge of it.
Oh, so manager. He wanted to be a manager then.
Yeah, well, a promoter.
A promoter. Promoter of what?
Of the Math, Gaudiya Math.
And then, that's fine.
If he was with Ramakrishna, if he's with the Ramakrishna mission, there's not very big scope of activity. But here's this young up-and-coming sannyasi. If I work with him, I can create a bigger scope than I would with the Ramakrishna mission. But his goal was to work in a big scope, not to be a guru. He could care less about being a guru.
Oh, acha. So he wanted to be the head man in charge.
Well, no, not even the head man in charge. He just wanted to develop an organization, like if you hire a promoter, it's like if you're an actor, you hire an agent, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He saw Bhaktisiddhanta as being like an actor. And I'm going to be his agent. I'll get him movie parts. I'm not thinking literally movie parts.
Yeah. So
I'll put him on the map.
Oh, I see. So I see what you're saying.
Because he was young and unknown. He said, here's the Maharaj, I'll put him on the map. But meanwhile, he never really wanted to be a disciple. He just saw a young and wise. It's like a guy in the circus. He sees a very excellent monkey. He says, if I teach that monkey to do tricks, well, I could become pretty important to the circus, you know?
Interesting.
So he wanted to promote Bhaktisiddhanta. I've got this talented person. Now, how am I going to capitalize on his talent by creating an organization which will leave me pretty much in charge? Not as a guru, as a manager.
Okay, so as a manager he was in charge, but the mission had a vision and
that was the vision of the mission. For Tirtha Maharaj, the vision was a byproduct.
Oh. So he was never interested in anything that Bhaktisiddhanta had to say. His main goal was just to become a manager.
Right.
That's it. End of story.
Yeah, but, he learned to walk and talk to talk.
I see. Cheating. Right.
Well, that's what cheating is. Sort of.
Yeah.
He was, if his goal was to be a manager, he didn't cheat as a manager. But if his goal was to be a guru or a successor, then he was clearly cheating. Now, the GDC and everything like that, they wanted to become successors to Prabhupada. Spiritual successors. Yep. Otherwise, they wouldn't have wanted to. Why should I get tangled up taking on the karma of all these crazy people? Don't want to join. Better I should just be GDC and manage everything and make a lot of money. But in ISKCON, that's not what happened. We got people who wanted to be Prabhupada. Remember, the time we were living in was the Beatles. It's sort of like...
I guess here in...
Well, if you go and see the Beatles, then next thing you're going to start a rock group of your own, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, I learned Prabhupada's management system, everything, and then, I get some following, and then I, become the next bogus guru kind of thing, right? You learn everything from Prabhupada, and then, you use him. Yeah. And you use him, and then, basically, you can talk the talk, and
you watch what Prabhupada does. In their minds, who are not completely sincere.
Yes.
In their minds, they're looking, Like someone like Visheshika was actually sincere.
Yes.
But these other guys, they were saying, I think I see how he does it.
Huh.
I see how he talks. I see how he acts.
Huh.
Well, that's how you convince people that you're a pure devotee.
Right.
So they were calculating how to become gurus.
You mentioned
But here's the problem. Kunja Babu wasn't thinking to become a guru. I don't know if he ever became one or not, but it doesn't really matter.
It's saying, Prabhupada is saying here, Tirtha Maharaj wanted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's property. Yeah? Prabhupada is saying in April 2nd, 1972, just like my Guru Maharaj, Tirtha Maharaj wanted his property. Then he says, quote, all right, take this property. But what he is doing, Shamasundar, sitting there in his wheelchair. Then Prabhupada says, quote, you wanted this property, take property, all right. He's kind, all right. This man gave me some service, he wants this property, all right, take this property.
Yeah, he did the work, he's earned it.
Yeah.
The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was not fooled, as Prabhupada put it, even for a minute.
Yes. So, it's
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, of course, knew exactly. Well, that's what Prabhupada said. He wasn't fooled even for a minute. So he understood what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted was transparently clear about. What Prasada wanted was transparently clear to Bhaktisiddhanta. Transparently clear.
Yeah.
And so when it came to wanting to cleverly figure out a way to steal the property, they said, go to Bhaktisiddhanta. Kunja Babu was trying to steal the property. He's done the work, let him have it. And we can't do that, it's yoga people, we can't do that. People want to see them go to your mouth. It's all right. Because Bhaktisiddhanta, of course, knew that the real movement was not them, but they were the precursor to the real movement, which was Prabhupada coming to the West. Even with the best management and a sincere person instead of Kunja Babu, even with a sincere person, they could never have created what Prabhupada created. It just wasn't possible in India. In India, pretty much, it's like been there, done that. No matter what you do.
What are you saying here? I'm kind of spacing out here. You're saying it's not possible in India? What do you mean?
It would not be possible to create an ISKCON starting in India.
Acha. Right. Because Gaudiya Math had been established already. Is that why?
No, but the Gaudiya Math was never intended to do what Prabhupada did.
I see.
The Gaudiya Math only had one purpose. It was a birthday party for Prabhupada.
I see. What is a birthday party?
I said like that. It was a celebration to celebrate Prabhupada taking off for America.
I see.
Because there was nothing, there would be no way to start a Krishna consciousness movement in India, because and I said, everybody is like, been there, done that, We all know about it. Hare Krishna, my grandmother,
Right. My grandmother knows Hare Krishna, right.
Yeah, my grandmother Sampradaya. So what actually happened was that Prabhupada went and came back with people dressed like higher quality Vaishnavas than the rich life members like Birla and whatnot could even. They just didn't have anything like that. All they had was traditional stuff. They didn't have anything revolutionary.
Okay.
They certainly didn't have American boys and girls coming with tilak on and chanting Hare Krishna.
And they met Bhavananda. I mean, what's his name? Yeah, Bhavananda. A young, ecstatic devotee.
Yeah.
and they were taken back by that, and they surrendered to Prabhupada, or they appreciated Prabhupada so much.
It was just too much for them to understand.
Yeah.
Too much for them to handle.
Right, right. Yeah, so it's starting to make sense now, everything here.
Yeah. So when Prabhupada came back with just a few devotees, he treated the devotees as though they were devotees. Not like they were the followers of Maharaj Yogi or something of that sort, you know. He didn't treat his disciples like people that paid, what is it? We read that passage. They paid $35 and they get the mantra. Last night, maybe you didn't hear that part. So, you there?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Yeah. So they didn't pay $35 to become a disciple the way Maharishi had people, and they would give them one of the syllables of the Gayatri mantra, and for $35, and that would be their initiation.
Prabhupada also says, in 1972, in a room conversation in Vrindavan in October, our Tirtha Maharaj is cheating. Then, what is his? He's got many buildings, but he could not do anything. Now he is after these buildings, that's all. Otherwise, what is his credit? He is not a good preacher. He was the head of Chaitanya Math. How much duty, heavy duty, he had to preach, but he has no preaching capacity.
So no, he just wanted to be able to realize he was living off of the prediction that in the Sejokali people will come to Mayapur and celebrate Lord Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, when will the first 10 people from their side come and dance with the Bengali devotees crying Hari Bol, Hari Bol? So, Kunja Babu believed that. He believed it because it was right there. Thakur Bhaktivinoda said it. He said, great. So I will control the place where they go. I'll train my sons to be lawyers. So if anybody tries to stop me, we'll stop them for free. I don't have to pay anything for a lawyer. You see? So when that happens,
This is funny. Go ahead.
When that happens, they'll all be coming, and there I will be there with a dhoti on and a big smile and a big kettle in front of me and say, just drop your donations, please, and then you can come in and see the yoga tree. You can come and see the birthplace of Chaitanya. You can come and see
right.
all that stuff.
So, Prabhupada is saying here, at one time, his father invited some people and for preaching, and the Tirtha Maharaj came. And his father was not very enthusiastic because he thought Tirtha Maharaj belonged to the Ramakrishna mission. But when Tirtha Maharaj spoke about Gaudiya Vaishnavism, he said, oh, they are Vaishnavas, his father said. So Tirtha Maharaj, I guess, came to Prabhupada's house and preached, but his father thought he was part of the Ramakrishna mission sadhu.
Well, he was.
Yeah, he was, but he gave that up and became a follower of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and took up the, mission of...
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how did Prabhupada's father know about his connection with Ramakrishna?
No, he's saying...
Was that before he joined Bhaktisiddhanta?
No. Prabhupada's... I'll read the whole paragraph so it'll make sense. This is March 1973 in Mayapur. Prabhupada. Yes. So my father was a Vaishnava, but when I invited these Gaudiya Math sadhus, my father thought that I have invited some sadhus of the Ramakrishna mission. So he was not very interested. When Tirtha Maharaj is speaking, I call. My father was that time invalid. I called him that, please come down here. There is a meeting of the Gaudiya Math sadhus, unquote. So he could not resist my request. He came down, but he did not think that some devotees have come. They thought these Ramakrishna mission rascals have come. Laughter. So.
Well, he did because that's the only activity there was.
Yes, Ramakrishna people going around, right?
And it's interesting because Kunjababu had been
Yes.
rascal.
Yeah. So he was not very happy. Srila Prabhupada's father. So he was not very happy. But I told him, he was sitting. He saw the meeting, he just criticized. Then, when he heard the speech of our old Tirtha Maharaj, our old guard brother, he understood, quote, oh, they are Vaishnavas. And then immediately after the meeting, he came down on his feet, quote, I misunderstood you, sir, that you are the Ramakrishna mission sadhu. I'm so glad to meet you. So that is the beginning of my intimate relationship with Gaudiya Math. And they are coming.
Really?
Yes.
So that's before Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta, it seems.
It seems like it, yes. I'm doing research right now. So this is...
I've never heard that fasting before.
Yeah, so it's saying...
where did you get it? What's it part of?
This is the Bhaktivedanta Veda-based archives.
Yeah, but I mean, what is the item in it?
It's a conversation in 1973 with Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur.
With whom?
With Srila Maharaj.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, that's the year before Prabhupada said never go see Srila ever again.
Yeah. So it's saying, and they are coming, and whenever somebody would come, I would invite them to my house and lecture. In this way, Srila Maharaj, at that time, Ravindra Sarup Bhattacharya, he also invited at my house and before. So Prabhupada is saying that, he invited Tirtha Maharaj to speak at his home, and his father was, not so happy, thinking that these are Ramakrishna mission rascals.
Yeah, but that basically was a misperception.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the history. So.
But of course, he was a Ramakrishna mission rascal.
Yes, he was. Oh, okay.
So maybe Prabhupada's father saw through his sin disguise.
Yeah.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so Krishna, so Prabhupada is saying, his name was Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj.
Bhakti who? Prabhupada, huh?
Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj.
Okay.
Prabhupada says in 1973 with Srila Maharaj, Prabhupada says, oh, our present Tirtha Maharaj, Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, he's representing Prabhupada. At least he tries to pose himself. So Bhavan Maharaj's activities, in comparison to that, my activities certainly better. And Bhavan Maharaj was given so much reception. But he did not give me any reception. How he can claim to Prabhupada's representative?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Srila Maharaj. Bhavan Maharaj was given reception because Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada says, no, Prabhupada appreciated anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there is no appreciation, Prabhupada is saying. Prabhupada is saying, then Srila Maharaj says, he's representing the mission, he thinks. He thinks so, but he's so poor in his preaching capacity that he could not accommodate any other in his camp, then
that means that he had this big scheme. He was a good organizer. He put together the mechanics and the legalities and the promotion of the devotee mouth, but he couldn't get anyone to work with him on the spiritual level. Nobody wanted to be his godbrother.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what's going on here. So, I guess he became the head of all the prominent buildings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
In the yoga field.
Yeah.
The buildings were, Bhaktisiddhanta had a beautiful house there. And then there's the temple. Then there were a few other buildings. Then there was a commemorative place with statues or sculptures of, not murtis, but sort of like a diorama type thing, of Lord Chaitanya and his mother and father. And it's like a Christian creche, where they show Jesus in a basket sort of thing,
Uh-huh.
So they have that. And Srila Maharaj took it upon himself to live in Bhaktisiddhanta's very large house. In 1969, I'd seen pictures of that house, photos, in London, not 69, 71 or 72 in London. When we were drawing the picture, I drew Prabhupada's quarters where he was to live, using the same arches, same smooth sort of Bengali arches that was in Bhaktisiddhanta's house, which was what I designed for him, the house I designed for him was extremely practical, simple, and elegant, and spacious.
Then Tamal Krishna Maharaj asks, what does Tamal Krishna ask here?
What?
Prabhupada is saying, Tamal Krishna is saying, what is Tamal saying here? This is Srila Prabhupada saying, our Kunja Babu also planned like that. He thought, by cheating all the God brothers, I have now got Chaitanya Mat, and people will come to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace, and I will get good income, and it will
that's what I said earlier.
Yeah, and it will be distributed amongst my brothers and sons and myself. That's all. That is his scheme. And then Tamal Krishna says, perfect material plan.
Yeah. You can see what Tamal is saying, I should do that too.
Right.
Perfect plan. But he has to say material plan.
Yes.
So otherwise, he was thinking, that guy was so dumb, how come?
Right. Then Prabhupada says, but he had no such plan to help Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He had his plan. He had planned, keep Bhaktisiddhanta in front, earn money, and put it in my pocket. Huh?
Yeah. Well, very fortunately, except for perhaps Kirtanananda, that hasn't happened in ISKCON.
Right.
But even with Kirtanananda, he did far more. He did a very huge and very excellent or large preaching effort. And we can, of course, say all the things that went wrong that Kirtanananda did. He declared himself unauthorizedly to be a successor acharya, all that stuff. But if you look on the ground, there were people, if you look from the Kanista Adhikari point of view, there were people chanting Hare Krishna. There were people taking prasadam. You know, I wouldn't go so far as to say they were all following the four regular principles, but that was the basic idea, right? And distributing Prabhupada's books in one form or another. So everybody was better than Tirtha Maharaj in ISKCON.
Right. Prabhupada is saying here, in 1973, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because he was a good manager, he kept Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, even though Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew that this Tirtha Maharaj was taking money, and his godbrothers were complaining, you know, why don't you reform this guy? Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that if I would have to keep expert manager like him, I would have to pay something. Suppose he is taking something, why do you grudge? Prabhupada laughing. He would say like that. So nobody could say anything. After...
But you do realize the way Bhaktisiddhanta was talking in the midst of a situation that called for exactly what his disciples suggested, which is reforming the situation, he was taking the contrarian point of view.
Yes.
You get it, right?
Yes, because, I mean...
Oh, I'd have to hire somebody anyhow, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, if you talk about your disciple like that, that is practically like cursing him to hell.
Right, right. So he would say, he could say something like that, so nobody could say anything, but after the demise, everything burst out. Quote, Kunja Baba must be driven out, you know. So the whole plan of the Gaudiya Math breakdown, the grudge was against Kunja Babu.
Yeah, but he ended up still owning the yoga feet.
Yes.
They didn't drive him out, they drove him out of their assembly, being a godbrother or something like that. But he did not drive him out of the yoga feet.
Okay, then Bhakti...
Nor would they have any idea what to do with the yoga feet. Because they were looking at getting money from, as Prabhupada said, in the manner of businessmen, you're acquiring disciples.
Yes, then Prabhupada says very importantly, Prabhupada says that Tirtha Maharaj, his name was Kunja Vihari Sar. So that was the boiling point in everyone's heart. So as soon as Guru Maharaj passed away, so that burst out. And the whole plan was to get out this Kunja Babu. Then Tamal says, not how to preach. Tamal is saying, not how to preach. Prabhupada says, no. This was the cause of breakdown. This was... Prabhupada says, no. This was the cause of breakdown. This was suppressed.
Could you read that a little bit again?
Yes.
Because I didn't quite grasp the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Here, Tamal says, who is this Kunja Babu? Then Srila Prabhupada says that Tirtha Maharaj, his name was Kunja Vihari Sir. So that was the boiling point in everyone's heart. So as soon as Guru Maharaj passed away, so that burst out. And the whole plan was to get out this Kunja Babu. You know, the Gaudiya Math, they fought amongst themselves to get this Kunja Babu out of the position or whatever
Why did they fight among themselves to get him out? That's explained.
Yeah, this is what Prabhupada says.
It was not united effort, I guess.
Yeah, because I think they figured out that this Kunja Vihari, Kunja was stealing money and, you know, doing all kinds of activities. And he was not teaching.
Stealing money that they would rather have been stealing themselves.
Yeah, so they're envious. Or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, right.
So then Prabhupada says, no, that was the cause of breakdown. This was suppressed by Guru Maharaj under his influence. So when his spiritual master was alive, he kept everything in check, you know. This was suppressed by Guru Maharaj under his influence, but the rebelliousness was there during his lifetime. Prabhupada is saying this, when this was suppressed by Guru Maharaj under his influence, but the rebelliousness was there during his lifetime, and it burst in two.
So, take into account that it appears that Bhaktisiddhanta was doing with the yoga people, what Prabhupada did with ISKCON.
Yeah, now we're coming to that conclusion.
Which is thanks for taking care of it.
Yeah, that is what...
You bogus rascals, thanks for taking care of it.
Right. Then Prabhupada is saying...
that we have to understand.
Yeah, this is a very good point.
And this is where...
Vashish.
Vashish, he doesn't understand it, and we can't blame him for that, because he's hearing from the Madhupandit's camp.
And
they don't understand it because they don't have any way to understand it.
So you see here, Prabhupada is saying in 1973 in Bombay, basically the rebelliousness was going on in ISKCON also in the when the movement started. But when Srila Prabhupada was alive, he suppressed it, just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was suppressing the rebelliousness.
Yeah.
And after Srila...
at the very last minute by creating music.
Yeah, and then Prabhupada says that his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta, therefore he advised that, quote, you make a governing body and Kunja Babu should be allowed to remain manager, unquote. This was directly spoken. Just see. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying that you guys form a governing body commission and Kunja Babu should be allowed to be the manager.
This was... never read that. That's amazing, because what it means is that everything, he was more valuable as a manager than he was as a disciple. Yes.
Prabhupada then says this was directly spoken. He never asked anyone to become acharya. And then he said, this was directly spoken. He never asked anyone to become acharya. He asked that you form a governing body of 12 men and go on preaching, and Kunja Babu may be allowed to remain manager during his lifetime. Just see.
And that's exactly what they did before.
Yes. So, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur passed away, they thought that by disobeying the instruction of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we can kick this fellow out. But this fellow, Kunja Babu, was appointed as a lifetime manager position to keep the movement.
Or is this you reading?
No, this is Prabhupada saying. He asked that you form a governing body of 12 men and go on preaching, and Kunja Babu may be allowed to remain manager during his lifetime, unquote.
Yes. But after that, was it your words or were you reading?
Oh, that was my words.
Okay, I wanted to be sure.
Yes. And Prabhupada was saying that once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left away, the disciples' main motive was to kick this guy out, Kunja Babu. He never said that Kunja Babu should be the next acharya. None of them were advised by Guru Maharaj to become acharya. His idea was, let them manage, then who will be the actual qualified? Let them manage, then who will be actual qualified for becoming acharya? They will elect. Why should I enforce upon them? That was his plan. Let them...
He said the GBC will elect the acharya?
No, Prabhupada is saying here, we never know what's going on here. We're just reading. They might have changed the words of Prabhupada too. It does...
Well, probably not. Maybe, who knows, maybe they did. But I really just catch that last bit, what Bhaktisiddhanta said.
He said...
The GBC, and then is the next successor they will choose?
It's saying here, Prabhupada is saying, he never said that Kunja Babu should be acharya. None of them were advised by Guru Maharaj to become acharya. Then Prabhupada says, his idea was, quote, let them manage, and whoever will be the actual qualified for being acharya, they will elect.
The GBC.
Yes, the GBC.
Yeah, okay. So it's very possible that this guy has taken that as the basis for the bogus, initiators.
Yeah, but acharya...
To me, it's not transparent. He says they will elect so that essentially what Prasada Saraswati was trying to do is keep the movement from falling apart.
Yes.
But unlike ISKCON, you see, ISKCON didn't worry about money because Americans don't tend to worry about money.
Right.
They worry about rank and power because they know when you have rank and power, you get money.
Right.
Whereas in India, you get all sorts of rank and power, but you never get money.
Right, right.
So they were all anxious after the money. And the critics had no need to be worried about money because, first of all, they controlled it themselves.
Right.
I mean, they controlled more than they could have made in their lives pursuing what their career would have been if they hadn't been devotees, right?
Right.
I mean, all of them made more money. Bhagavan wouldn't have ended up with a golden toilet seat if he had gone and become a doctor.
Right.
So, and also there's another difference in when you're a guru, you don't have to have cash in your pocket, because what does cash in your pocket buy you? It buys you a mansion. Okay, I've got a temple. It buys you servants. I've gotten surrounded by disciples. It buys you cars. I've got a nice car. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in other words, ISKCON so-called gurus got everything they could have had, even if they didn't have big bank accounts for themselves.
Right.
If they have or don't have, it's not as much the point, because their disciples will always make sure that they have too much to eat and too many clothes to wear.
Right, right.
And a very nice place to live.
Right.
But when you become an actual devotee, you don't really need a very fancy place to live. You just need a room and a bed in it. You don't need very much more than that. This is very fascinating. So my calculation is, based on everything, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted them to try to create a GBC that elected successors, because otherwise they would break up the movement and try to become successors without an election, which is what they did. They refused to make the GBC, and they didn't want to elect successors. They all wanted to be successors, and then why the hell should I vote for somebody else to be a successor?
Yes. So then...
But I look at that as a trick, just as Prabhupada making the 11 Nutniks was a trick.
Yes.
He knew what they were really going to do.
Right.
Well, Bhaktisiddhanta, he didn't even get the toehold that Prabhupada had by creating a GBC.
Right.
Even a bogus one.
Yeah.
They didn't even get a bogus GBC.
Right, right. Unelected GBC.
So keep going. Did you catch my distinction, sir? Do you feel you agree with them?
Yes, definitely. I agree with them. I will post this conversation in our group so everyone can benefit from it on the internet, because people don't do research like this. We're systematically going, and we're
they all want to talk about Krishna's pastimes, stealing butter and giving it to the monkeys. That's fine. But we're trying to figure out how to create a movement for the next 10,000 years.
Yeah. So then...
Or accurately, fulfill Lord Chaitanya's movement for 10,000 years, starting with him.
Yes. Then here in 1973, in the same paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is saying, and this is a room conversation with a banker, September 21st, 1973, Bombay. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, why I should enforce upon them. Then Prabhupada saying, that was his plan, quote, let them manage by strong governing body. as it is going on, the Acharya will come by his qualifications, unquote.
Now that's different. That's not elected. That's different than what you said before.
Yes.
So actually what Prabhupada is saying is different from what Bhaktisiddhanta said.
Yes, yes.
Bhaktisiddhanta was just trying to trick them into not breaking up the movement.
Yes.
Whereas Prabhupada was telling the real truth, which is that somebody coming out of there would be the next Acharya.
Yes. Then Then Prabhupada says, but they wanted, because at heart they were, quote, after demise of Guru Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I shall become Acharya, unquote. Then quote again, I shall become Acharya. So all the Acharyas began fight.
Bhaktisiddhanta was trying to prevent with the devotee and having the Acharyas elected. That's the last thing they wanted was for the church that they were surrounded by to elect somebody else who was meant to be Acharya.
Yes. So Prabhupada is saying here that after demise of Guru, I shall become Acharya. I shall become Acharya, unquote. So all the Acharyas began fight. On one side, that Vasudev Acharya and Sri Kunja Babu Acharya and Paramananda, he thought that whoever will be powerful, I shall join them, laughing. He only thought, but Guru Maharaj never asked that all these three men should be trustees. He wanted governing body, so rebellion broke out immediately after his passing away, and then fight in high court. And Kunja, he is very intelligent man, so from the very beginning he knew that there will be fight after the demise of Guru Maharaj, so will be in high court. So at the expense of Guru Maharaj, let my brothers and sons become attorneys and barristers, so I will not have to pay all these things, unquote. It was a planned thing, and it was done.
Yes, and I was quoting that more or less to you earlier.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So at the expense of Guru Maharaj, let my brothers and sons become attorneys and barristers, so I will have not to pay all these things, unquote. It was a planned thing, and it was being done. So he was a clerk. It was not his power to make his brother and sons attorneys and barristers. They were all made at the cost of the Gaudiya Math to fight, which in favor.
He collected money for the Math they used to pay for their education.
Yes, in favor of Tirtha Maharaj. These were the planned things. Prabhupada is saying, these were the planned things.
Yes.
So Prabhupada, we can see here how the whole history is. It's pretty interesting. I'm looking at making making comparison to ISKCON. ISKCON is much better than this Gaudiya Math. At least they don't fight among the gurus. The initiators.
Americans were not trying to make money. They already had the money.
Right.
By the time they were temple president, they knew the formula how to make money.
Right.
So they didn't have to worry about that. What they wanted was territory and power.
Right.
So when Prabhupada created GBC, they had a choice to accept it or not accept it the way the Gaudiya Math used to accept it.
Yeah, yeah.
So when they accepted it, it bound them up, hand and foot, like prisoners, to be not breaking up the stone into pieces and trying to become the Acharya of each piece. So Prabhupada succeeded where Bhaktisiddhanta could not, because he was dealing with opportunistic Indians, and Prabhupada was dealing with, maybe they were hippies and everything, but many of them came from, prosperous families. They weren't just, because they were on the street taking drugs with long hair and never thinking about didn't mean that they were bums. And most of them came from middle class or upper middle class or even wealthy families. Right?
Right, right. Yeah.
So it was a completely different thing. In India, to become a guru is to pull yourself out of the muck and make yourself into somebody, and then the money will come after that.
Yeah.
With the Americans, they already knew how to make money. We're Americans. We Americans make money. Give me a break, you know? So because the Americans knew how to make money, the problem was power struggle.
Right, right.
And Prabhupada solved that by creating a GBC, but he knew they would not obey. But the disease of not obeying the GBC is that you lose your connection with the spiritual master as him being your guru. You can't sign a document with the spiritual master also signing the same document, and then consider when you completely reject that document and your signature, and as a consequence his signature, that somehow he's still your spiritual master. All I can say is, dream on. It's not how it works in Vaikuntha.
Right, right.
I should say English, yeah, so that's great. My God, you're doing great. You know Mahaprabhu put out a thing on the WhatsApp saying, fantastic, I think he's listening to this conversation.
Right.
Because you're broadcasting it, right?
Yes.
Amazing.
Okay, I think we have run.
Jai Mahaprabhu. What?
I think we have come at the end of Tirtha Maharaj's glories.
Yeah. In the end, he just withers away. You know, he's sort of like Jatapataka, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And very similar too. Jatapataka went to Mayapur, took charge of it, and now he puts some gold. A collection plate that you can't go in unless you don't drop some money into a box, you know.
Right.
So that's pretty lovely stuff. But the difference is that Americans are not intimidated by money, or Westerners, Europeans and Americans are not intimidated by money. They can make money. You know, they have the karma to make money. They're not from poor families. And in India, if you're from a wealthy family and you become a devotee, you may get disinherited because you're outside of the dharmic structure that you're supposed to be in.
Right.
Renunciation, well, look what happened with renunciation is the son of a king decided he wanted to become the next king, and he stood there for a week without moving.
Right.
And his father finally came to him and said, okay, what is it you want? He said, I want to be king. He said, okay, I can't have you standing there forever, so I grant your wish.
Right, right.
And so when he left, he became Lord Buddha.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the secret to the whole thing, is if you're in a wealthy Indian family, not necessarily king, but I mean if a guy owns a fabric shop and he's got a bunch of kids, he's like the king of the fabric shop, you know?
Right.
He may not be the king of the whole town or even of the street, but he's the lord of his business. That's Dharma. And it's supposed to be that way.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So that either he will give his son permission to become a devotee, or he will tell him, if you become a devotee, I will disinherit you. Because you're supposed to expand the business, not run off into the woods with your tail between your legs to mutter mantras amongst the trees in the forest. No. You know?
Right.
I want you in the business, so when you hear where it's hot and warm and busy, and the rupees are going back and forth like crazy, we want you to do that too. And you're one of the smartest of my kids, So for you leaving, you've taken a lot of brain power with you. No, no, no. So that's what the Indians had to face. And of course, if they were just from not so wealthy families, like ordinary families, then, but they were Brahmins. The ones that joined Bhaktisiddhanta, I think, were either all or mostly Brahmins. So you come from a political family, it might be like a Catholic having one of their sons become a priest or the daughters becoming a nun, you know?
Yes.
It's sort of a sacrifice you do for the greater good. But when that sacrifice is to go after some contrarian guy that does as an upstart without any real connections to the structure of the Brahminical culture, or to speak of the Brahminical Ramakrishna culture, that becomes a problem for the family. So that's why they were not, that's just why, that's just conjecture, analysis, I would say, is more accurate. Why they were not able to say, well, who cares about Zimbabwe? Let's make our own money.
Yeah.
They didn't know how.
Yeah, they couldn't do it. These other people, they couldn't do anything. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appreciated him so much, because of his service of keeping things together.
The appreciate didn't like him at all. But the thing is that, but he used it. Like you may have a very greedy horse.
But he makes you money.
Yeah, but if he's pulling the wagon, you let him be greedy, even though you think that's disgusting.
Right.
Well, anyhow, we completed everything for the moment.
Yeah, I think we're done. So I'll post this in our WhatsApp so people should hear this and get things straightened out. And look at the historical point.
Everything we are talking about, I'm beginning to realize that the way I perceive, the way I outplay what could be called a disability of dyslexia and autism is actually, when it comes to stuff like this, it's a total gift. Because it gives me the chance to go straight to the core and not bother with all the chit-chat around the edges of it.
Yes.